Well, I guess so. We'll just start it off by saying this is another episode of the Official Visit podcast by the Oregonian Tyson Alger, Andrew Greif, with our special guest today. We're taping this on a Tuesday of Civil War week with Jerry Allen.
Oh, I feel honored.
I
really do.
The voice of the Ducks, as he is so often called. You've been doing this for 29 years?
Yeah, 29 years, which all that means is I'm old. That's
what
that means.
Older than we are, yes. Yes.
Is it a little tougher to keep track of the in-between years? You know, you have like your 20, 25, 30. Did you maybe lose track when you're on like 27? Or like, am I on 27 or 28?
Yeah, I lose track of my own age. I mean, for a year, I was telling everybody I was 65, and I was only 64. It wasn't until my birthday when my wife celebrated a party that I found out that I'd made myself a year older. So, yeah, I get lost in the years. I do. It happens.
So talking to you about Civil War memories then will be great, because you'll be able to pick out all those specific memories.
Yeah, I make up a lot, too.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
We'll fact check in the end.
Okay.
I mean, going into this one, Tyson brought up a good point earlier before you came in. How much different is it this year and the last couple years with how big Oregon has got in terms of media presence, the attention paid to Oregon, compared to when you started? I mean, how many people were around doing kind of the journalism thing, covering the team in the late 80s when you kind of got here?
Wow. Not many.
Yeah.
Not many at all. No national media at all. I don't remember any national media coming in. And, you know, we were lucky if we got a TV game during the year, and the Civil War was never on TV. Some of the local guys, but that was about it. It wasn't a very big deal. I mean, just a few years previous to that, Oregon and Oregon State were both in what they called the bottom 10. That was an article they ran in the newspaper every week, and the big deal was to try to be out of that. But for the most part, we were both in there. So the coverage was just pretty much just the fans.
Did that help you as a local broadcaster that people couldn't get that game nationally, that they could really listen to you? Maybe even they couldn't get into Washington. They knew they could listen to you, and I think that helped kind of your connection with, I guess, your listeners.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, radio was the only way. And so the audience was bigger because if you wanted to follow the Ducks, you had to listen to the radio. It's interesting because as we got onto TV a little more, we get on 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times, and inevitably somebody would come to me during the week and say, the game's not on TV this week? And I'd say no, and they'd say, oh, we have to listen to it on the radio. They didn't mean, oh, we didn't like you. It's just they started getting used to watching TV, and so a lot of those radio people started, moving to television.
At what point do you start, I imagine during your first year or two with it, it's kind of getting the fans acclimated to you and your voice of it. At what point did it just kind of feel normal of like, okay, I'm Jerry Allen, the voice of the Ducks here,
Yeah, I never felt like that. I was a Duck fan before I got the job, so I sort of felt connected to the program. I went to school with some guys that were stars at Oregon. Tom Blanchard, I'm from Grass Pass, and he played quarterback here. I was a punter, went to the NFL, and some other guys. And so I sort of felt connected. And then when I got the job, Bill Byrne told me, he said, some people are going to say you're a homer, and you're going to get some, remarks about that. But you need to be. He said, 99% of the people who are listening to Oregon games are listening because they're Oregon fans. We are paying your salary. You work for us. So if you want to be a little homer, that's okay. I want you to be excited about what Oregon does, but be fair. Don't be making stuff up or making excuses. And when the other team does something good, but that's the way I had done play-by-play, recognize the quality of both teams on the field when they do something good.
One of the other things we were talking about before you came in here is, when you got this job, was this something where you're like, this is what I want to do for 30 years? Or was it, I think when a lot of young people get jobs now, it's like, okay, I can use this as a stepping stone to something else. Like, why are you still here after, all this time?
Born and raised, small town in the state of Oregon, small town guy, never comfortable in a big city, wanted to raise my children in a small community and loved it. But when I got the job, they had gone through, 4, 5, 6 radio broadcasters over a period of about 10 or 12 years. So the job didn't last long. And just about every one of those guys were quoted in the newspaper when I got the job, telling him to leave his bags packed because he won't be here long. So I thought, okay, I'll be lucky if I can be here for a couple of years. It'll be wow, what an opportunity. Wanted to be here as long as I could, but never dreamed that I would be here as long as I am. And a lot of the reason I am is because of the success of the team. I mean, when the team's doing well, everybody's happy with, the coach, the ball boy, the guy that gets water, the radio guy, everybody's accepted. Well, Bill Musgrave was here my first year, and we sort of turned the corner, and so I got to enjoy that success, and I think that helped fans accept me.
When you talked about coming from Grants Pass originally, growing up small Oregon town, do you feel that there are more? I guess are you surprised just how big Oregon has gotten because of? Talk about the national brand, the international brand. Are you still kind of maybe sometimes surprised that, oh my gosh, I can't believe the Ducks are as big as they are, how big is their profile, coming from the kind of program you grew up watching, which
Sure.
was so regional and downtrodden in some ways.
No, yeah, it's still, because I remember going my first few years traveling with football and basketball, and going to the East Coast or the South or going anywhere, and never seeing an Oregon hat, never seeing an Oregon shirt. Talking to people, and you'd tell them that you're from the University of Oregon, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, the Beavers." You guys, people didn't know;
Yeah.
they had no clue. And so, to me, it's been a relatively short period of time that all of that now the nation knows. I mean, there are people. We used to have people contact us on the internet who'd listened in South Africa, South America, Japan, all over the world, who are Duck fans, and that still surprises me. But at the same time, when you put together, Nike, the marketing, and then the success of the program, that's the way sports works, and people love a winner, and also the way Oregon does their uniforms and everything they do is, cutting edge, and that's why we are where we are. But it still surprises me. I mean, it's like I used to think of, Florida, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Michigan, Nebraska. We used to go play those teams for a payday, get beat 56-6, but come home with a ninth check. Now we are one of those teams, and that's still kind of weird.
Sure. You've caught a game in so many places, I have to imagine. Ever a stadium that or a sport at a specific venue that you've always wanted to call a game in that never had the chance?
The only one that I really, as far as college football, I've never been to Duke to do a college basketball game. I would love to be able to do that sometime.
Sure.
Done Notre Dame. The Horseshoe at Ohio State was pretty special. And to be there for a game and watch the band play and they dot the I and all that was a pretty cool memory. But after I got into it for a while, Oregon started improving the facilities, and then all of those other venues that I thought I wanted to go see that because they were so cool became less cool because Oregon was the coolest. So, other than Ohio State, Notre Dame,
Yeah.
and maybe Cameron Indoor, those are the ones I'd like to see.
So we're sitting inside your guys' is it still called the Quack Cave? It's
No, the Quack Cave is upstairs.
So you
This
guys
is the
have,
McMurray Cave.
okay, yeah, this is the
This
Joey
is
McMurray.
the McMurray Cave.
So you guys have generously offered to let us record this inside the studio that you guys record Duck Insider in, and
Yeah.
it's filled with memorabilia. You got posters up on the wall. You've called games for every single one of these teams, every single one of these players. Do you collect this stuff too at all? What's your favorite piece of memorabilia at your house or in your office or?
It's crazy interesting. I've got a lot of Duck memorabilia. I've got my Duck room and the plaques and the rings and the different stuff. But the one thing that's special for me, I got from Terrell Brandon, and it's a sweatband. And Terrell Brandon, and I don't get as emotional now telling it because I've told the story so many times. Terrell knew he was going to leave after that year. And we were playing our last game at Arizona. He hadn't announced it yet, but we all knew that he was going to leave. And during shoot-around at Arizona, I said, T, all year long I wanted to get a sweatband from you for my son, and I kept forgetting to ask you. So we get back to town or whatever, could I get one from you? And he said, sure. So we shoot-around. We do the game that night. Arizona just kicks us. I mean, it's probably a 50-plus point win. And Terrell has got to be thinking, this is it for me. This is my last game. We just got embarrassed. I'm doing the post game. They're getting ready to go off the floor. And he's on the other side of the floor, looks over and sees me, points at me, and runs over, takes off his sweatband and lays it down in front of me. He'd remembered earlier in the day that I'd asked him for that. He just went through a terrible loss. He just played the last game of his career as a Duck. Who knows what's going through his mind? And he remembered me. That's a special moment. And so I've still got that sweatband. That's the kind of stuff that's special.
You frame it, or where's it at?
It's just sitting on a desk by the computer. So, and I see it. I look at it every once. Those are the things that you remember. Not necessarily the wins and the scores and all those things. It's the people.
Sure.
It's the people.
The Civil War has had so many people go back and forth. That's one of the things I think is really interesting is from Rich Brooks, John Neal, Matt Lubick. They've all worked at OSU. And there's so many
Don Essig.
Yeah. Oregon State graduate.
Yeah.
Mike Parker,
Right.
Oregon State, radio man for a long time, Oregon graduate. What's your, I guess, is there just a particularly vivid memory of the Civil War that sticks out to you? I know that's a very broad question, but is there one there's got to be one that just comes off the top of your head?
Jorgie and I joke about this, and it's Josh Wilcox.
Yeah.
And it's the year that Oregon beat Oregon State to go to the Rose Bowl in '95 that year. A lot of special things happened for Oregon to get there. But we're playing at Oregon State, and it's a tight ball game, and it's getting down to the big, the drive that would put Oregon on top, and Dino Filia, a little screen pass would win it. But there was a play on that drive, and it's tense and everything's tight, and Josh Wilcox went up to the line, lined up as a tight end, and got down a three-point stance, and he was so fatigued and tired, he lost his balance, and in slow motion just tumbled backwards. We got the flag, the penalty flag, and I don't know why that moment sticks in my mind, but that Jorgie and I still joke about that moment. They're the double overtime victory. Oregon State beat Oregon in a game, and they tore the goalpost down and they tore the field up. And even though Oregon lost, I enjoyed seeing Oregon State, who'd not had a great year. I enjoyed seeing them enjoy the moment. I guess I'd reached a point in my life where, and I'm there now too. I want Oregon to win every time. But even when they do, I feel compassion for the coaches and the young men on the other team because I know they're doing what Oregon does every week, practicing, hurting themselves, killing themselves, going to school, trying to make it, trying to be successful. So I remember that. And the other one is when Oregon went to the first national championship game.
Yeah, your calls. I mean, that's been replayed so many times. Your call from that.
It was emotional. It just the not the weight, but just the realization that I was a fan, and thousands of fans through the years had dreamed of being the Ohio State, the UCLA, the USC, going to a national championship game, and it was a dream that nobody ever really. Oregon's never going to get there, and then we started getting closer, and then we got there, and that moment just hit me. And it was really cool.
I'm sure you've been asked this a lot of times, but did you think out that call? What would happen if they did win that Civil War in 2010? Or was that just off the top of your head? That was just the emotion of it?
It just, in fact, when I did it, as a professional broadcaster, I think Joey would tell you this too, you don't want to lose control. You want to be in control all the time. And I lost control. And when we went to a break, I remember thinking, damn, I lost control. That's unprofessional. It was like, wow, it was emotional, yeah, but, oh, man, what did I do? And it wasn't until the car ride back home when we heard the play being played on KXL. They were playing some of the highlights, and they played that bit of it that I heard it, and I went, oh, wow, I guess that was okay. But, yeah, it's all fun.
I remember running into you at Cowboy Stadium or whatever the heck they call it, AT&T.
Jerry Jones' house.
Jerry Jones' house before the national title game, and I had asked you if the Ducks win this, do you have something planned out that you're going to say? And you said, no, I never plan it out. You kind of just got to go with the emotion of the moment sort of thing.
To me, it's scripted. It's not real. I mean, if you plan something out, that's never been me. And just because guys do it or gals do it doesn't mean that it's bad. But it's just, it's got to be real. And for it to be real, it can't be planned. And so I just, live in the moment, and whatever emotions or feelings I have, that's what comes out. I've never been good writing script and planning and making it work to the situation.
So those emotions are kind of what accompany some of the most famous plays in Oregon history. Obviously, you have the pick with Kenny Wheaton.
Oh, yeah.
We have to hear your voice on every Saturday when they show that play over and over again inside the stadium. But
yeah,
besides that, besides that one, do you have? I mean, Kenny Wheaton scores every single time. Besides that one, do you have a favorite call that's maybe not played as much? Of like, you just hung up the headset and go, man, I called the heck out of that one.
Nailed that one.
You know, I guess each season and sometimes almost each game, there's one that you just happen to get right. You see it set up. You know, Charles Nelson had a play this past week that Vernon got to him. Vernon's pass at Arizona State. You know, we kind of got that one right to the back of the end zone. So there's none. I mean, I guess Michael LeMike.
Yeah, get that right, please.
Right.
Please get it right.
Against Stanford that year, he had a play when he went up the middle, busted up the middle to start the season, and I don't know why I said it, but it was like statement, LaMichael James, because it was we were trying to get across the point that this kid is good. He's trying to make a point, and now maybe the rest of the college football world will realize that. That's a statement. And I was happy with that call. I thought it was cool and forgot about it. The next year, ESPN's college football opening show, I sit down and watch it. It comes on, and that's the opening play, and they use my call. And I was like blown away. It was like, I'm on ESPN. I was like, wow, that's me on ESPN. It never gets old. And but it's like asking players, what's your greatest game? What's your greatest memory?
Sure.
They're all terrific. They're all good.
Your second thought after seeing that played on ESPN was, where are my residuals?
Yeah, really. Yeah, I asked Dave Hickey after the Kenny Wheaton pick because cell phones were starting to get pretty big and everybody had a ringtone, and the Kenny Wheaton ringtone was on I don't know how many thousands of phones. So I went into Dave Hickey's office and said, hey, look. A nickel for each one, 2 cents. Can I negotiate something? He says, University of Oregon owns that. You don't. I said, okay.
So
I got nothing for that.
So many of Oregon's coaches have been here parallel with the same amount of time you've been here. Greatwood, Gary Campbell, all those guys, which on one side should be great because you can develop relationship with those guys. I mean, you've kind of done the run with them. Is there any part of you that's like, man, I get tired of these guys. I want new interviews to come up after maybe 5. Most programs have that sort of kind of non-continuity in the program where you can.
It's the norm.
Yeah, exactly.
No, because they're like family. I mean, after 29 years, you spend that much time and you get an appreciation for what they're going through. Gary Campbell, an example, losing his son Brian and how much love that family had for what they went through. You get caught up in that and you appreciate those, and so you look forward to that each year. And if Gary would have left at any point, over the last 5 or 8 or 10 years, I'd have missed him. You miss him like, it's like doesn't seem right. So I don't. I think that's one of the benefits that Oregon has is the continuity of the coaching staff is so good, and it's been so long term that it, like Mark Helfrich has said at times, they don't have to meet very long beginning the season or during the week because they all know each other's thoughts, jobs, and what they're going to do, and they just so you don't want to change that. You don't want to change that.
On the flip side, I imagine there's probably hundreds of us that you've worked with over the years of just different journalists that kind of cycle through here.
Yeah, I'd get review guys on a yearly basis.
I mean, how many Joey Macks have you had? I mean,
too many to count. This is interesting, and we've talked about this before, and I think I've told Joey this. And I don't know if it's because it's a small state or a smaller school or what. I don't know what it is. In the 29 years I've been here, I cannot remember one media person that I didn't not get along with.
not even Fentress? I mean,
you feel sorry for Fentress, okay? That's just a difference.
It's a burden he carries.
It's a burden. No, I mean, because I think all of them, to my way of thinking, and I'm sure some coaches and maybe some administrators feel a little different at times. I think all of them have treated Oregon pretty fairly. John Canzano, great at his job. He is good at what he does. He does what he does, and he does it really, really well. And he gets under the skin of some people. Here at Oregon, I'm sure Oregon State or whoever he's covering, because that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to raise issues and get inside of issues, and he's great at it. I don't have an issue with John. I don't have a problem with that. I understand that you guys have a job to do, and sometimes I think you ask really stupid questions.
Like half the ones on this podcast so far.
No, like,
when are you hanging up the mic?
Do you like dark meat, or do you like white meat, or do you like stuffing?
We did just come from a press conference where that question was asked. For the people at home who don't have the context, Helfrich was asked today.
Yeah, that's right. This has been an unusual. I mean, you go to some cities and some teams, and the media can be just, particularly in the professional world, pretty hard to get along with. Pretty demanding and pretty straightforward and pretty cutting. I just don't feel like that's ever happened. I'm sure somebody has been like that, but I've really enjoyed the relationships.
Well, I mean, like on the flip side, both Andrew and I, I'm, only about 4 or 5 years in this career. Andrew maybe 6 or 7. I guess we're considered young guys at this. You've always been, just from the get-go, one of the nicest guys around here and very accommodating for someone who's seen us kind of filter in and out of here. And I think that's part of why we wanted to have you on the podcast, is you're just very, very approachable for,
Well, you got a job to do, and I always felt, and I think Dave Williford feels this, I think a lot of the media people do, and that is they want to help. They want to help you do your job. They don't want to, they don't want to exclude you. They want to help you. Now, once in a while, somebody will be a little over the top or a little too pushy or not quite understand the rules and engagement, and there may be a little irritation, but it usually gets smoothed out quickly and easily. But no, it's the players, the coaches, the fans, and the media that I've had to work with. I've been pretty blessed. I mean, I just haven't had any issues. No, I haven't had to get an attorney.
Oh, I don't know about you guys. I tried to pattern myself after the vicious Coos Bay media in my hometown. That's my template. I only knew that growing up. I remember in college writing a story about Kenny Whedon, one of hundreds, if not thousands, and I talked to you for it, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I just talked to Jerry Allen. And you remember you called from your cell phone, and you said, yeah, call me anytime you want and you need help. And I just couldn't believe that. I just thought that was the nicest thing. Because I was like, I'm just a college junior writing for the Emerald, a freelance story. So it goes back a while. Absolutely.
I mean, on the flip side now, though, he's going to go home, though, and be like, I just got to do a podcast with Andrew Greif.
That's right. Yeah. My wife, I call my dad. Dad, you got to find it, No.
It's on that internet.
Yeah, on the World Wide Web.
The World Wide Web.
Okay, 2005 Civil War, the Fog Bowl. How did you broadcast that? We talked about it a little bit last week when we were talking about setting up this podcast, but I'm still fascinated. How do you do your job, or not do your job, when you literally can't see the field?
I don't remember that game because I didn't see it. We saw the fog starting to flow in over the bowl, and it's really cool because you see it coming, but at the same time you think, okay, slow down, it's getting hard. Oh man! So we got to a point where we couldn't see. You just sort of see silhouettes and numbers, and I remember saying, I think I don't, gosh, Jorgie, can you see anything? So then we went down to Jay Allen, who was on the field with a wireless mic, and from field level he could see stuff. So he ended up pretty much doing that part of the game until the fog lifted a little bit.
That's where you need these glow-in-the-dark jerseys that everyone was trying to.
That would have been. See, if we have a foggy game, that's exactly what they should be wearing. It'll happen again sometime.
Is that I don't know if the right term is hairy, but is that the hairiest kind of broadcast you've ever done where you're out of control? Where you kind of, whether it's technical or just the game is going crazy, where it's just not, it's an outlier where things are going weird?
That one, and as a fan, there was another one, and I'll explain. But the one that was a little scarier for me was we were at Tennessee, and we're in the top row of the press box. And we got wires all around, and I'm wearing a headset and wires around my head, and lightning is flashing and striking. And they're saying, fans, clear the stadium. This is dangerous. And I'm thinking, well, what about us? And And Joe Giansante was up there with us, and he was in the department at the time, and he said, "Well, just stay on the air, just keep telling people about it." And I said, I grabbed my headset and I threw it down. I said, "You stay on the air. I'm gonna have lightning going through my ears. Come on, think about this. Look at all the wires." And I got a little upset or scared, I guess, about it. And I backed away and I said, "I'm not gonna do this." And it was probably safe. I don't know, but it just does seem weird. I mean, doesn't it?
That reminds me of I was born in Seattle and was just a diehard Mariners fan. Grew up listening to Dave Niehaus on the radio.
Oh, sure.
And one of my favorite memories of him, I think it was in '94. There was an earthquake in Seattle, and it was inside the Kingdome, and pillars started falling, like basically pieces of rock started falling from the ceiling of the Kingdome. And everyone's story is Dave Niehaus was the first person out of the stadium.
That's
just
right.
threw off his headset. Like it was like Costanza running out of that house with getting the women and children out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
You know, be smart, get out of it. The other time was a fan. This was the Freeze Bowl. It might have been the Toilet Bowl, but it was like single digits for about a week. Every drop of water in Autzen Stadium froze. I mean, every drop. Everything was frozen. So, there was a lot of fans here for Civil War, and there was a lot of beverages being consumed, and so the bathrooms were open even though they weren't functioning, and it was incredibly weird.
Painting a scene.
Yeah, it was incredibly weird. So that's a memory I won't go into detail. Just let your mind wander with that. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a great place to call a game? Just the setup. There's certain press boxes for where I feel like I love that press box. The Stanford one is tough. We went through it where like the writing surface is just a little high and the chairs are a little low. There's little quirks like that. Is there a stadium in the Pac-12 that's just like, as a broadcast, you just love it because you know that it's always great. You never have a problem there.
Stanford actually is pretty good for us.
Really?
Because we're so close to the field. It's a small, compact stadium, and we're close to the field, and it's not bad. The ones when you're up on the fourth or fifth level, like at Arizona State, and you're way back there, and it's hard to see. Colorado's a little scary because it's a pigeon nest, and there's a flock of pigeons that during the game when it gets late. No, I'm being serious. During the game, they all of a sudden decide to come home, and you're in their box, and they come right in, and it's like, whoa, okay, you guys, and it was, yeah, it was that was interesting. It wasn't scary. It was just, what do we do here? These guys are trying to get in. Gosh, I don't like Jerry Jones Stadium at all. That place is horrible.
Where do you sit for that one? Our seats were in the corner of an end zone.
Yeah, we're behind the end zone.
Okay.
Yeah, behind the end zone. So we couldn't call the game watching the field. We used the big screen above the field, which was the only way we could do the game. Yeah, which I don't get it. Why do they put people who have all the money in the better seats? I guess I just answered my question. Don't I?
My favorite part of that stadium was the suites underneath the field level.
Yeah.
And essentially, like during the game, the only thing you could see if you weren't looking up at that big screen is just all the players' butts because they're all lined up there
right in front of you.
So people are paying
However,
thousands of dollars just basically to watch like a big screen TV. Like,
yeah. Crazy.
I mean, I'd do it if I had the money, but just to throw it around there. But
yeah, I don't think that's what people realize, that for people working the games in our capacity, not always the best seats.
No, they aren't. I mean, in basketball, I have a horrible seat. I want to be there because you're right next to the team. Some coaches sit, some coaches work back and forth. Dana Altman works in front of me, so I know his behind really well. And
when he bends his knees, you know it.
Oh yeah, and if you'll watch me sometime, you'll see me sideways trying to look around him, back and forth. And Joe, you did a game. You know what I'm talking about. It's you miss plays, you miss shots, but it's still you're right there in the action. It's a lot of fun.
What's our best press box for what we were just talking about for riders? I thought Washington State's new setup was pretty darn efficient for watching the game.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about the best. What's important to me is not so much, honestly, is my seat, is how quickly I can get to the field in the locker room.
Yeah.
And that's really important, especially because I don't get to go down on the field halfway through the fourth quarter usually. It's I have to file a story at the buzzer. So I'm usually fighting through
Arizona
a couple
State
thousand
was
people.
terrible for
Yeah.
that one.
So that one's tough. Yeah, Steve Mims and I from the Registry Guard passed ways going to the field. He was coming from, I was going down, and we had to yell at each other like, "Just go left or just go down." And that was a really hard
Jump
one.
over the rail. Do you guys rate food at the stadiums?
Yeah.
I don't have a very good memory of what a lot of them serve, though.
There's a lot of pulled pork around the Pac-12.
Yeah, there is.
Actually, surprisingly, at Autzen last week, the turkey and mashed
Turkey dinner.
potatoes was
Excellent.
Great.
That
Yeah,
was really
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That was good.
Better than Research Stadium's hot dogs. I think we can agree.
Yeah.
Utah last year, the soup.
Oh gosh. And they shut the coffee off. Utah used to have a decent broadcast booth, and they took half of it away for offices. So their booth is so small we can't get our gear in. So Terry Johns, our producer, has to stand behind in the hall, and we squeeze into the. It's unbelievable. I mean, that was the Olympic Stadium,
Yeah.
Right.
and it's and then the food. Jorgie went out to get a cup of coffee at halftime or just after halftime, and they said, "We don't serve anymore after halftime." So
I remember when I was at I went to school at Montana, and I believe it was the FCS semifinals. Appalachian State was playing the Grizz, and it was like the first game that Montana had been on ESPN in however many years, and so like the normally very conservative press box cooking staff, like it was like prime rib for everybody to like,
big deal.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
a
like,
big
oh,
deal.
ESPN's coming to town. Let's bring out those Montana steaks. And we're like,
Why not?
Well, yeah, all right.
We read a lot for our jobs, obviously, and I have writers that I really like reading.
Thank you.
I get better. Tyson is not one.
Oh,
Just kidding.
oh,
He's
well.
great. His Monday morning stories are great. Do you study? Do you study broadcasters that you, or at least just aspire to? Is there a sound you're going for that you try to like pick off of guys, or is there just a wordplay that some guys have that you like, or do you just kind of do the Oregon football approach and you only pay attention to you?
Yeah, I listen to other guys
Yeah.
because I appreciate their work. And I'm friends with a lot of those guys too because we work around each other. But I never ever wanted to try to be like somebody else. It wouldn't have been me. It's part of that don't pretend to, write a script thing. And I think this goes back to one of the first guys that taught me play-by-play when I did play-by-play with him, Grants Pass High School years ago when I was still in high school. And I remember talking to him about, how should I sound? And Cliff Wayne was his name, and he said, "What do you mean? How should you sound? Sound like you?" And I said, "Well, shouldn't I sound like?" And I can't remember who I said at the time we were listening to, and he said, "No, that's him. You sound like you. Just be you." And I've never forgotten that. And I've heard other broadcasters who will try to sound like Vin Scully, or you can tell them that they picked up that sort of sing-songy or whatever that person has, and I always think, gosh, I can tell what you're doing there, and you should do your own thing.
Sure.
So I don't try to be anybody. I'm just me.
Did you always get kind of bit by the broadcasting bug, or was that something that you just kind of stumbled your way into?
Total fluke. I was actually a soda jerk in a soda fountain in high school. At the music store, going through 45s at lunch, and one of the PDs from the station came in, a little small podunk Grants Pass, standing next to me, and hey, you like music? Oh yeah, I love music. I'm a DJ. Oh really? I'd love to be a DJ. Well, come out and you can, I'll show you around. So I went out and emptied garbage cans and made coffee and did that kind of stuff and just fell in love with it. And then hung around and I interned, I guess, basically. They didn't call it that then. And they ended up giving me a weekend job. And then my senior year, I got an air shift. And when I graduated, they gave me a full-time job. And then I was a DJ. I was playing the hits. I'm a rock jock. I still love the music. But in 74, the station I was working for decided to do high school play-by-play. And it was in Medford, big-time sports. High school was big time. And so in a meeting, they said, okay, we're going to do play-by-play. We're going to sell it. Going to carry Medford sports, Greater sports. We need to get somebody that's play-by-play. Anybody do play-by-play? And I went, yeah, I play-by-play. And I'd been a game analyst and kept stats as a high school kid, but I'd never really done play-by-play. But they gave it to me, and it turned out to be easy and fun.
We might have to have you record something introducing this podcast, kind of like it was like a '70s rock album. Like, got a little.
Oh man, we
got a little Black
we had a
Sabbath
request
coming up.
line. It was like I could talk 10 million miles an hour, and and you talked up every song to the last second. I knew every song, how long the instrumental intro was, how long the song was.
Got to hit that post.
Oh, you got to hit that post, and we prided ourselves in that. And when Iron Butterfly came in, and then Rare Earth came in with the long versions, we had a genuine record that we could go in and actually take a break. I mean, go hit the bathroom if you needed. It was like 17 minutes and 24 seconds.
Wow.
So I even used to run out and go down to the corner Copper Kitchen, get a hamburger, and come back.
I've always heard that DJs hate Stairway to Heaven, but it sounds like maybe
Oh,
there's
no.
some benefits
No,
there. You get some time.
Huge benefits. Yeah, huge benefits. Yeah.
Well, shoot, it's getting close to the point of the day where you guys actually have to work.
I think getting close to overstaying our welcome here.
So, do you want to play us out here?
I haven't worked a day in my life. This is a paid hobby.
Can I get one more question before you end?
Go ahead, Ken.
If Phil Knight sat in the radio booth with you, would you let him talk on the broadcast? Or
Sure.
would you kick him out like Scott Frost said he would?
No, he's more than welcome. He actually has been in to watch some games with us.
Oh, really?
The first time I was like, okay, don't. But he's such a great guy. He's just a normal guy, and he didn't have a seat, and wanted to know if they could sit in and watch the game with us.
Phil doesn't go in there anymore because the last time Jerry was like, I think we should change up that swoosh logo. I don't know if it's really working
Yeah,
for you guys.
No, I think he's getting tired of me asking him for shoes too. Like your shoes, what size are they? No.
Employee store passes for Jerry.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Phil is one of your many listeners, and thank you so much for letting
you're
us
welcome.
chat your ear off today. I know it's a short week for everybody, so I'm sure you got a
Yeah.
lot of work before the Civil War, but thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, I'm proud of what I get to do, and I'm proud to work around you guys. I mean, you guys are genuinely fun to be around. You do a great job, and what you do gets overlooked unless there's a line in there that people hate and then they want to jump you for. But otherwise, I tell you what, you guys do a tremendous job.
Well,
That's
thank you.
Genuine. When
Thank
I
you.
said that, this has been a great place to work because people have been so kind to us.
All right, everyone. Well, so Civil War on Friday. He'll be on the call over here. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and
Happy Thanksgiving.
we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening.